Hello friends, I am Dr. Suchita Vishkarma, Assistant Professor, Department of Management, School of Management Sciences, Lucknow. Welcome you all to the series of lectures on supply chain and logistics management. Students, in today's lecture we are going to understand that what global supply chain network is. In our previous lectures we had already discussed about supply chain network. We had also studied about the different kind of networking styles. We understood that supply chain network is basically a design or a framework of interconnectedness or interconnectivity of various kind of people, organizations, processes that may be incorporated by any organization in order to facilitate the uh, facilitate the process of production and also the for facilitating the process of movement of goods from I mean different points of production to the warehouse and to the point of consumption, that means where the customer is actually is. So, since supply chain network is very important aspect and becomes even more important in global supply chain because of the complexities, because of the elaborateness of this global supply chain process. Because in global supply chain there are many countries, many companies, many intermediaries who are involved, and so it becomes very important to understand that how the global supply chain network is going to be designed. And obviously the designing process is very similar to what the normal supply chain process is, but then over here because a lot of risk, money and time is involved in this complete process, so companies need to understand that what are the various factors that they need to take in consideration for improving the complete process of global supply chain. So, in this lecture we are going to talk about the same. Let us get started. So, before talking about it in more details, let us also understand about the impact of globalization on supply chain network. We had discussed that globalization is basically a concept when the companies do not restrict themselves in the boundaries of any country, when they are offering their product and services by operating in multiple countries and by providing the maintaining the demand supply chain also from different countries. That means going outside or working beyond the boundaries of any particular country. So, globalization has brought lot of challenges also and lot of flexibilities also to the complete process of supply chain. So, let us understand the impacts of globalization. The first impact being the globalization offers companies opportunity to simultaneously grow revenue and decrease the cost. How would they grow revenue and decrease the cost is something that we had discussed in detail in the previous lectures also, but just to revise again, I would tell you that companies will be able to cater to larger markets and also use the resources which are cheaply available in other part of countries. So, that is how they will be able to have a more of opportunity in both these two aspects. Now, the second impact that the globalization has is that the opportunity from globalization are often accompanied by significant additional risk. As I said in the beginning of this lecture itself, that since the companies are in different countries and the different countries may have different set of rules, regulations, language barriers, the distances are quite apart, and doing a lot of and so a lot of coordination and movement has to be done within these countries and companies, and so that attracts to a lot of risk also to all the companies. Then the third impact is that there will be a good deal of uncertainty in demand, price, exchange rates and competitive market over the lifetime of supply chain network. That actually means that since these companies are operating in different countries, and so the fluctuation of a particular material or a particular resource in one part of the country may lead to increase of the complete cost of supply chain. Moreover, the fluctuation of prices, fluctuation of currency rates may also lead to increase or decrease of the supply chain cost. since the companies are offering the products also in different countries, so lot of competition pressure is also there, which all the companies needs to sustain and live with it. And fourth impact is that building flexibility into supply chain operations allows supply chain to deal with uncertainties in a manner that will maximize profit. So, that means if the organization is actually ready and is able to manage all these challenges, then probably the organization will be able to leverage a more competitive product or service to their customers. So, it is not only challenging, but giving a pathway to a lot of opportunities also. Over here you can see that this is a small table that I have shown, which illustrates the impact of globalization on supply chain network, and it shows the percentage of supply chain affected. So, it simply says that as per there are various kinds of risks that that are involved in the complete supply chain process. The risk factors can be you can say it they are few of them are controllable, few of them are uncontrollable, few of them are external and internal factors. So, a company must take care of and must understand that what are the percentages of supply chain, how much is the impact of all these factors on the supply chain. So, as you can see that the natural disaster is having 35% of impact, shortage of skilled resources is having 24% of impact on supply chain, geopolitical uncertainties is leading to 20% of impact on supply chain, terrorist infiltration of cargo, that means people who are with bad intention leading to theft or damage to the cargoes is also one challenge, one factor which is leading to 13% of impact on supply chain. Volatility of fuel price is leading to 35% of impact. Operations and custom delays also leading to 23% of impact. Customer preferences shift is also leading to 23% of impact. Performance of supply chain partners is leading to 38% of impact. Logistics capacity and complexity is something which has a lot of impact, that is 33%. Forecasting, planning and accuracy, if the forecasting is not done properly, that also may lead to an impact of 30% to the supply chain process. Suppliers planning and communication issue, as similar to forecasting and accuracy, similar is the weightage for almost similar is the weightage for supplier planning and communication. That means if organization is not able to plan and communicate properly with its partners, then also the company will be facing lot of impact, and the result the outcome of the impact obviously may go negative. Inflexibility of supply chain technologies, that means if the company is not able to change their processes, they change their activities, change the infrastructure requirement as per the volatile preferences of the customer, then that would also lead to 21% of impact. So, over here you can see that there are various factors that needs to be taken care of by any a company who is entering into global supply chain. Now, moving ahead, let us understand the global supply chain network. So, global supply chain network design can be described as a process that determines the best mix of suppliers, locations, logistics and production facilities for operating, product manufacture and distributing. मैं कट करूँ एक बार, एक्सक्यूज़ मी. क्या हो रहा है यार, मैं फिर कंटिन्यू करूँ इस वाली स्लाइड से. करूँ? So, In this particular slide, we would understand the global supply chain network, and global supply chain network design can be described as a process that determines the best mix of suppliers, locations, logistics and production facility for optimizing product manufacture and distribution across the planet. So, as we had understood in the supply chain network also, that it is basically combination of various people who are responsible for smooth and efficient movement and efficient offering of the product and service. So, global supply chain network design entails answering the following questions. The questions are that where to source raw material and how to transport the products. From how to transport the products, it may be in terms of raw materials, that means how to transport the raw materials from the suppliers to the manufacturing unit, or it could be in the other format also, that means how to transport the finished good to the warehouses or to the intermediaries as well. Then what are the optimal locations for product lines? I mean every organization must understand that which country or which company should be located in which country, and where we should leverage on the production line, because setting up of production line is one very important aspect, because it entails lot of investment. So, a company must only put their production line in a place which has lot of resources, cheap resources, good quality resources available, and from where they have good tie-ups and relationships, from where they can leverage on the benefit of production. Then allocation of capacity is something again very important, because obviously every organization has limited resources, we all of us know that, and allocation of resources and capacity is important, because in global supply chain every country will have may have different set of functions, may have different set of roles, responsibilities, may have different kind of working. So, the company needs to understand that if I am outsourcing or getting a work done from any company which is in another country, then how much budgets, how much resources, how much capacity that particular company needs to have for smooth supply, for maintaining the smooth demand and supply chain. Then market allocation. The companies also need to understand that what is the kind of market in terms of the customer demand, and how much from each country the market the customer demand is, because they need to understand that from which particular strategic location or which particular country it would be convenient in terms of saving of time, in terms of process, in terms of cost, to reach to the customers. So, they need to also think of the market allocation. Technological investment is also one factor which needs to be answered, because what is the kind of technology through which we are going to work, what is whether that technology has to be self technology or adapted, or is a patented one, and then how to procure these technology and how much amount of investment has to be done, because the addition of technology is obviously going to reduce the complexities, enhance the productivity, but is also going to incur lot of cost. Then the companies should also take care of product storage and warehousing, as we have discussed already about the various aspects of warehousing. So, we know that the companies must also take care of that what are the different warehouses, and what should be the strategic location of these warehouses, which all countries can be served through one centralized or decentralized warehouse. So, this is also very important. And the best method for delivering the goods to the customer. So, what are the channels that the organization should have in order to provide better services and timely delivery of the product to the customer. So, these are the various questions that needs to be answered by any organization. Over here we can see that I have taken an example, a hypothetical example, where I have shown that there are two countries, let us say India and China, who are providing certain kind of raw materials to manufacturing hubs which are located in China, Europe and Korea. That means these three countries, for these three countries who have their setup of the assembly line, for them the resources are being obtained or procured from China and India. So, inbound logistics has to be maintained between these four countries. Now, over here you see that after production the finished good is distributed to USA and Europe. So, these three countries have to maintain a relationship with these two countries in terms of outbound logistics, and to provide the services in such a manner that they receive the deliveries on time and in a proper manner, in order to meet the demand of the customers from USA and demand. So, over here you can see that this particular hypothetical example also shows that there is a combination, of 5-6 countries who are involved in this particular supply chain, within which lot of coordination and association is required. Now, coming to the characteristics of global supply chain network organization, the any global supply chain organization that is operated using supply chain network approach has following characteristics. First, it has a multiple global location, as discussed multiple times, that supply chain itself needs lot of people, lot involvement of lot of organizations, and when we are doing it globally, so multiple global locations will be required. Large number of cross organizational process and units located around the world. So, that means in every country, since many of the companies who are operating in through different countries, they will have to do lot of coordination, communication, will have to completely share the information from each other related to the availability of products, related to the step that is presently running, and so a lot of cross organizational processes are required, which needs to that would also require a lot of monitoring and control over the entire process also throughout the world. Then the third characteristic is that a multi-stage supply chain with links in more than one location. This simply means that at one location also a company may think of having in one country also a company may think of having multiple locations, one for say the purpose of warehousing, the other for say for the purpose of production. So, within a country also they can have more than one place where they are operating, or from where they are providing the services, and so multi-stage supply chain within the one country or one location is also required. Then the next is the need to handle a wide variety of events around the world. Across the world, the pestle factors are not same. When I am saying pestle factors, it means the political, economic, socio-cultural, legal and technological factors are not same. We know that there are certain developed countries, developing countries and underdeveloped countries. So, the challenges also are varied. That means every country has different set of challenges and different set of events in these countries. So, there may be situations that for the smooth running of supply chain, the company is actually have to consider the events, the activities, the festivals, the different political factors, the different socio-cultural factors also in order to run the work smoothly. Then the next is that ability to provide local support and solution to customer and supplier around the world. This simply means that the company should be able to provide local support and support to customer, solutions to customer, because if a particular customer is getting a particular product from, let us say, any other country, there may be a problem or a hurdle or some perception in the mind of the customer that who is going to service me, and whenever I have any issues, then probably that would take a lot of time. So, the companies should also focus on setting up local hubs, local point of service, so that the customer can be made assured that whenever at the time of challenges or at the time of problems, there would be someone to take care of the requirements. Then the next characteristic is the need to standardize its product for each location or locale. So, basically means that in case of standardized product, it becomes this characteristic is not does not prevail, but in case of non-standardized products, this characteristic prevails. That means the companies are required to standardize the product for one country according to the demands of one country. For example, if you say that talking about any automobile car, a company which is offering any automobile or a car, let us take for example. So, in that case the company is basically required to adhere to the different traffic rules regulations adhered by the country, by the government of or given by the country, and accordingly do the production, because if the same set of assembling is done for all the people all across the world, then probably that may not be aligned to the different requirements of the people across the world. Then mutual support and cooperation among operational units. This is something which we have been always discussing about, that lot of communication, information sharing, transparency is required, because unless and until the processes are smooth, unless until information is properly shared, the processes will never be smooth. So, this is something very important. Now, coming to the global supply chain network. The phases of global supply chain network can be defined as 3 phases: demand phase, supply sub network phase, or service sub network phase. The demand sub network phase consists of manufacturing, distribution, retail, logistics and finance. So, basically over here we means that the global supply chain network can be divided into 3 phases. When the customers are actually demanding, so all the things, all the activities that an organization is doing in order to understand what the demand is, and in order to understand that demand and in order to produce the product related to fulfillment of that particular demand, the company needs to manufacture, get lot of procurement, provide lot of logistics, needs to procure funds, finances, and all this which starts from various suppliers to production unit. That means everything that is happening within these 2 levels, from suppliers to production, that basically entails that it is a demand sub network. Then coming to supply sub network. Supply sub network basically talks about all the activities that are involved in supplying the finished good from the point of production to final consumption. So, basically for over here you can understand that demand sub network and supply sub network are basically rather supply sub network is B2B network, where the organization is one organization is interacting and coordinating with the other organization, and moving the goods from production point to intermediaries and warehouses and such kind of things, and for them the logistics that is required, the freight forwarders who are required, the institutions, the manufacturers, the financial requirements. So, everything in such manner basically talks about supply sub network. And then coming to service sub network. Service sub network basically talks about having connects with the suppliers, manufacturers to provide them after sales services. So, service sub network needs not be restricted only to the peripheries of the suppliers and distributors only, but it can be extended up to the end term customer also. That means the companies are required to provide lots of services. Services could be in terms of solving their problems, in terms of helping them with their queries, in terms of getting proper feedbacks, in terms of installation or delivery, or any or even returns and exchanges. So, all kind of things, all kind of logistics, movement, transportation, finances, all chain that is required for maintaining this service sub network is comes under also the global supply chain network. So, any company over here needs to understand this. Now, the factors influencing global supply chain network decisions are strategic factors, that means local versus global supply chain network. The strategic role of each facility, offshore facility, sourcing facility, whether the organization has to have their own sourcing or has to get it outsourced to someone, and who would be the contributors, and what type of activity will be performed in which particular center. So, this is what we are talking about in strategic factor. That means all the factors which will lead to better understanding and better decision making related to smooth functioning of the supply chain is basically what is required. Then coming to the technological factor basically talks about the fixed cost and the flexibility of the technology. That means if I am having my own patents or a technology that I am using, then probably that may lead to increase of cost, but then obviously will provide me lot of flexibility also. But if I am sharing a technology with other country or other company, then that may lead to lot of patent right I mean intellectual property issues. So, any company must also understand that what are the technological resources available to them, maybe their self owned or maybe from other, which they can share from other country, and what is the cost and the benefit analysis that they can have with these with the combination of technology. Then coming to the macroeconomic factor. Macroeconomic factor basically are uncontrolled factor, as we have been always saying, these are the pestle factors, and which includes obviously taxes, tariff, then free trades, limits on import, I mean exchange rates, demand risk, the political factor, the socio-cultural preferences, all these factors are very important. So, over here the organization needs to understand that operating into which country or process or running a process through which country is not only feasible in terms of process, but also cost effective for the complete supply chain. Coming to another factor, which is political factor. Political factor talks basically gives a strength to a company that how much ease of business they can have, how much stable the legal system is, and legal and political system is, and if the systems are stable, then probably they can have more long term relationship or partnership with that particular company. Now, coming to the next point, which is infrastructure. That means availability of sites, labors, access to transportation, competitive factors also, and positive externalities, and location of market also leads to deciding of that how global supply chain network would be. Customer response time and local presence is also very important, because there are customers, there are people who are very demanding and may require their product at a shortest span of time, but there may be other set of customers who may be ready to give a certain time to the supplier or manufacturer to get a good quality of product. So, it becomes very important to understand the customer's needs and preferences, and accordingly offer and or deliver the product to them. Logistics and facility cost. Since we had always discussed that logistics is something which basically incurs around 30 to 40% of the total supply chain cost, and out of this 30 to 40%, around 60 to 70% goes in transportation. So, an organization must understand that what are the logistic facilities that are required and what are the costs associated to it, because if they are able to control on this particular cost, they will be actually able to reduce the total supply cost. And then obviously the local arenas, that means the culture, the availability of skilled resources, skilled and unskilled people, and then the industrial relations, infrastructures, and energy availability, all these come under local arena. That means the factors of that particular country which is which may lead to direct or indirect indirect incurring of cost, or smoothing of process. So, these are the various factors that affect global supply chain network design. For detailed understanding, you may go to and refer to these books. Thank you.